Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's June the 4th. This will be our chart lesson today. Much easier today than what we've been having. Really interesting day, to be honest with you. We had the trend channel started up. We got the break, the new high, and then we've been trending off ever since. We really look like we had a channel here, but I believe it's a bigger channel. Um, And generally, once you get underneath what you consider the channel and you continue to trend or above, just, what I usually do is I will take and measure the first one and get the distance and then drop it down like so, and then just move my line down, and you can see that's exactly um, pretty much where we bounced. And so that was my target once we got through there. So that's generally how I do it. Just like you would if you find, and you can see the target here. Notice that if you measure this little one right, this little range right here, when we broke out of that, your target should have been that same distance below it. You can see right there, that's exactly where we went before we rallied and then made a new high, and then the sell-off began. So much different today than yesterday, much easier to it looked a little choppy to begin with, but once we made this new low here and then started selling off again, it was pretty obvious we had a downtrend going here. Um, I had this line already in place here, and it looked like it was right here originally, but you can see it turned out to be up here. And so, you know, always keep moving your line. If you know you've got it, it's obvious that's holding prices right there. Uh, so somewhere up here, a similar line is probably going to hold prices on the other side. And I noticed we just had a failed, failed second entry short there that's about to probably go longer. I'm tempted to take that, but I'm done today. I'm trying to, well, it never broke higher there. So still could go higher, but we're probably going to come on back down a little bit. I'm not sure I got this line. I accidentally moved it, and I'm not sure I got it back in the right place. That probably looks about right. But we should come back and test that line. If we'd have went on higher first, we broke lower first there. If we went on higher in the same bar, I might have been more interested in that one. But I don't like it as much now. Still wouldn't surprise me if we keep heading higher here. In fact, might as well draw our trend line up through here. And you can see that we are kind of bumping off the highs of what looks like it's probably going to be the channel there. So we'll probably come on back here and then maybe get a chance to go long. Oh, we could turn back down. We could break this and turn back down. But it's been really straightforward today. Um, again, we have the main channel coming up, several good trades on the way up, and then we broke the channel, made the new high, and we've been selling off ever since. So let's talk about the trades. Not as many trades as what we've been having. Still a good many, but the ones we had, excellent. Lots of runners today. Today, as hard as yesterday seemed for me, today was that much easier. So I hope you noticed that as well. Let's back out a little bit here. And the other day, somebody asked me, occasionally I get this question, how do you zoom in and out of your charts? Well, hold your control button down and then hit your arrow up and down. You can see that I'm just holding the control button down. That's arrow up, and there's arrow down. So that's how you zoom in and out. But this was a fairly obvious trend channel up here. You could have drawn this off these first couple of swings here. Originally, I think I had it drawn a little bit steeper because I caught that one, but it still doesn't matter. It got you to the same place. So you should have been expecting this pullback right here, and that should be right in there. Maybe a little bit lower right there, but Notice that we got a failed second entry short there, followed by a second entry long, really coming off this is a breakout pullback, 2 legs back to the breakout area. Notice all that overlap. And then look at that nice reversal bar. And what I did was, as soon as it broke higher, I dropped that limit order 1 tick back into it, just enough to get me filled, and boom, it was off to the races. That one was quick and easy. And I exited my runners on the double top here. I wanted to exit right when we hit it, but I've been wrong on this a bunch, so I waited until we made the double top, and then I exited on this doji. So I got most of that move. Then, of course, now I'm waiting on it to come back. There were some chances to enter in here. There was a double bottom here, but, you know, the double top up here, I'm expecting prices to come back. This was the first chance we got to enter. Easy trade again here, nothing more than a scalp, and then we got the break of the trend line. And of course, once we got through there, you know, like I showed you, look for a little measured move, and that's how this line ended up. And that really brings it right back to the breakout area, which normally you come and test. And then you had a first entry pullback and then a second entry. A nice setup right there, knowing that we're probably going to go and fill that gap, and boom, off it goes. I was tempted to enter here, but lately, you know, every time you enter near that, you know, for a while there, it seemed like we just would keep on going through that stuff on a trap like that. But we didn't get that today, and but this trade would have worked. But I just think it's too dangerous to take that trade right now. We seem to be back to a more normal acting market as far as breakouts go to the upside. You know, there was, you know, about a week there where you could just buy anything on the way up. But this is not one of those kind of trends. You can see a lot more overlap, a lot more swings and undulations, and it's not that little, it doesn't look like this right here, which is what a strong trend looks like. Notice the difference there. So much different. And then, of course, now we've got the break of the trend line, 2 legs to a new high, and then we had a failed second entry long. This is a trap, and let me show you this because somebody asked about traps. Let me get this out of the way here. But notice we're looking for a reversal. You got a first entry long, a pullback, and that's a nice second entry long. So when it didn't go higher right there, that is not a good sign. And it's a trap, and a failed second entry long when you're looking for a reversal is basically a second entry short right here. And it's a trap more than anything. And notice that what I did, because there was a little overlap, I waited for it to break lower, and then I dropped that limit order in there, and guess what? It pulls right back. I could have got filled all the way back up to here, really. And then it takes off, and boy, it was off to the races. So any runners were safe here. You could still be riding these runners. And but what I usually do is exit at the other side, and then look for a new entry. And but hopefully you can see that trap there. You got a new high. There's your pullback. First entry, another pullback, second entry long. So it's a failed second entry long. It's a trap at the high of the market. And you know, I would have liked to seen a more bearish bar. You could have waited on this one actually once you saw this one. But again, you know, now you're getting back down here near support, and you never know if you don't break through there and bounce back again and make another leg up. So you got to take that trap. But generally the trap is going to be good for at least a scalp, and probably more. Did I know it was going to come all the way down here in one move? No. But we've seen that a bunch lately. This market is nervous, and it tends to sell off real quickly these days. So great entry, but hopefully you see that second entry long, failed second entry long there. Then we come down to the low side, and then guess what? We're trending back to the other side. We get the trend line break, the move up, another failed second entry long trap, almost similar to this one. Notice the new high, first entry, pullback, second entry. Since this was kind of a bullish bar, you might have tried to get into this one with a limit order, but since it was a trap right at an expected line, see, I pulled my line up, and I was expecting prices to turn here. So when it turned down there, I just went short with a stop. And if you tried to use a limit order, I don't know if you'd have got filled. It moved pretty quickly. You probably wouldn't have. But guess what? Then it gives, now you got another try to go higher, and you haven't made it to the low side yet. So that's a failed second entry long. Notice the new high, first entry, pull back, second entry. So it's another trap. And look how fast it moved down, just enough to get your scalp, then it hits the low side. And that's what I was looking at, is there still room to get out before we get back down here to the lows. And I wasn't sure exactly where the lows were. I wasn't sure if they're down here or up here, but it seems to fit better right here. As you see, we got catch all those lows across there. So, and that's probably why it bounced right there. But those people were early. And so really, if you used a stop here on this one, you probably didn't get any runners because it did come back real quick. Again, this one was one, since it didn't close on this low, it was better off to use a limit order. It bounced off mine a few times right there, so I moved it down, and it did come back and get me before it dropped on down. Nice, easy trade. Nothing much more than a point or so, a scalp out of that one. Depending on how you got in it, you probably did. And notice that is a two-legged pullback to the EMA as well. So that was another reason I like that entry. Multiple reasons, possible trend line, trend channel. See how that was holding? I just drug it up and it fits. So nice setup there. We finally get the break. We actually had a little break here and two legs down, but I'm sure just because a lot of people weren't sure if that was good enough, we made two more attempts. And notice now we got a trap to the short side, a failed second entry long. And I was tempted to go long here, but I know better. I didn't take any counter trend trades today. I didn't want to get caught in any of that. That's a lot of overlap right there. But notice the new low, first entry, pull back, second entry, and it didn't go very far, so it traps people. And so you could have gone long right there, and there was enough room to scalp out before you got back to the highs, and easy trade. You need to be concentrating on the shorts, though, in a downtrending market. Notice that this line has been confirmed here multiple times, and we couldn't get above it again. You got a nice bearish bar. This is another one of those with the overlap, but there's about one time to go up, two times, pull back three times. So we tested that three times there. Couldn't get above it. And you got to figure we're coming, the trend line's holding, so we're probably coming lower again. But because of the overlap, this one I wanted to use a limit order. I dropped it one tick in there, just enough. If sometimes you'll miss these trades, and look, if you did it, you really could have used a stop there, because notice there's a first entry and then a second entry short too. So, but I didn't like going short below that bar, so we waited on this one. And when it broke, and then when it broke below there, then you had a chance to do. But it took off, so you had to be thinking really quickly to get in this trade. It's doubtful you got in on a stop, unless you used a stop or you dropped your limit order in there, really had it ready to go and dropped it in there really fast. Because I just got filled and then off it took off. And then this is a double top here. Notice that we broke below. We pulled back and tested it. Nice bearish bar. Easy scalp, came right back and got the runners. You really could have entered here. It's another two-legged pullback, but we weren't quite back to the EMA. You didn't necessarily have this. I had the line in place, but I wasn't trusting it yet, because the reason I had it, I drew it down here first and drug it up, but I wasn't sure if maybe it was up here or right here. So I just didn't like taking that trade without more confirmation. You got some more here, but again, it was really tight. And this was the first one that we really got a two-legged pull back, and we weren't to the target yet. So, and also the I always do that. The low from yesterday, let me show you that. Let me back out here. That's the low from yesterday. And so that was my guess, is that was where we were headed, to test that low. And guess what? We didn't quite get there. We got real close, and we may get there yet. We're still in this bigger channel here, so we'll just have to see what happens. But we may get there yet. But generally, you will come back and test those major lows pretty quickly on a move like we had yesterday, and of course we did that today. Will we just stay range bound or go lower or higher? We'll just have to see. But this was the only try. You really, like I said, you could have entered on all of these coming down, but the closer we're getting, the more dangerous it's getting and the more overlap we're getting. But this was actually a two-legged pullback off the EMA, and it gave you a chance. I really should have drawn this bigger because there were two chances to enter here. This was a breakout pullback short, and there's still room before we get there. So again, this is one of those I would have used a limit order, and you can see how it pulls back in there. And generally it'll do that because there's a lot of buying, but the sellers are letting the buying go on, trying to, because they're putting their orders a little higher because there's not a lot of room, and that's what they're probably noticing. And there was a break here at a new low, but generally you get a couple legs down, and generally you're going to reach this next target when the market's this weak. And it took a little work, but it got on down there, and it's been reversing ever since. And you can see, we talked about that a minute ago, you could have, that was a failed trap, and you did get a chance to go long here, and you see it was an easy trade. But notice that there's a new low, first entry, second entry, and when you, that's a trap, and it's a pullback and retest of the EMA and that trend line. So it broke lower first and then went higher, went out the high side. You could have had a stop right there. It was an easy trade. It took a little work because it's on the upper side, but those traps very rarely fail, especially if you're expecting prices to go higher like we probably were here. So, and that was really it for today. Real straightforward today, much more smooth, and you know, it's not hard down, hard up, hard down, hard up. It's continually trending one direction, then continually trending the other, and that makes it much easier than yesterday where it was just all over the place. Look at that, hard up, hard down, hard up, hard down, strong up, strong down, strong up, more down, and then that's when this hit. And generally, like I said, you're gonna, when you have a major low like that, you're gonna come back and test it again, and within a day or two, usually, unless the market just goes nuts. And we came back today and tested that, and now we're going to try to go higher from there, but they may not be able to do it, so we will just have to see what happens. But hopefully that's pretty straightforward for everybody today, much easier than yesterday, as I just showed you. This was an easy channel to find. This was an easy channel to find. This might have confused you here, but by the time you get down here, you might be a little more leery, and that's why I didn't mark every single one of those. You got to be a little more leery as you start to get to the low. You got to know where prices are probably heading, and you know, I had two targets there. One was the low from yesterday, and the other one I showed you how I found it. I'll take and measure how far it is between one, just like we do on the flat or horizontal trading ranges, and then you drag it down, and you can see there it is. And so that gave you an idea where to look for it to bounce, and look what happened, exactly where we were looking for it to bounce. So use those measurements and those measured moves, and also on this target, I was real confident in that one too, because there was the first leg, and then you can see there's leg two. We didn't quite get there, but that's because we were bouncing off the channel. But notice that's why we went a little lower there, and notice how it found support right there again before it broke lower. So that's really kind of a little breakout pullback short right there. But it's so close to this line, I just think you were without a trap, without it breaking higher first. It was risky, but look at, man, it dropped on off. So if you did see that and you took it, it's a risky trade, but you know, it's a breakout pullback short. So, and that's what this is. It's a breakout pullback out of this channel. And normally I'd be leery about taking that, but that's such a strong move. It's just rare. And let's just see if we got a measured move there. I believe we did. That would be your first move down and then your first correction. And you can see we didn't quite get there. So, but it was real close. There's just too much buying down here on yesterday's low. And plus we'd hit the channel already. So, and generally that's going to create a reversal. So that's really about all there is today. Not much more to say. And again, there's other trades in there. There's longs to the backup side. This was a pretty obvious long here, in my opinion, because you had this easy to see channel, the break, and you know you're probably coming back up to test this line. And at that point, I wasn't sure if it might be here, but you got so many touches right there that turned it down. I had a feeling to be there, and then of course that's where it turned out to be. And you see we're almost back there now, still going higher. So this channel is big enough that now that you could trade back to the upside because you got an obvious trend back up. You got to get leery when you start to get here. We could go right on through there like we did yesterday, but you got to be leery of adding any new longs right in here. You want to get above it and prove that it's still going higher before you start getting long up in here now, because we're so close to this. Just like you got to be much more leery about getting short down in here. And some people probably got trapped right there. And I guarantee you a bunch of people saw that little pullback, and because it kept going shorter and shorter, and they don't know when it's going to stop. They don't have any idea where the support is, and they go short below that bar, and it turns and closes almost on its high, and it's been going against them ever since. So you got to get in early on the pullbacks and not late when it's way. Always watch your EMA and your trend line. Your best entries are going to be close to that EMA and are close to that trend line. And that's just the way it works. Look, coming up, how all the good entries were generally near the EMA or the trend line. And then you start coming down, it's the same thing. All your good entries are off the EMA or the trend line. And it was tempting to take this short, and some of you probably did. But after coming off that low, I would not have taken this short. If I did, the only way, because of all that overlap right there, I would have waited for it to break and then drop a limit order in there. But guess what? By the time it came back and did that, you probably the trade was over. You might have still, you notice it went back down again. So if you got your limit order filled up here, you probably were all right there. That would be the only way I would consider going short right there. No other way. And somebody asked me about one. I think it was right here. Same thing. They tried to get short right here. It was either here or here. Actually, it was here, I believe, because it was earlier this morning. So they tried to get short right there. If you look at my chart, do you see why there's no reason to go short right there? You got a little trend channel working up. Look at all that overlap. I don't think their bar had, or their chart had as much overlap as mine. But let me back out of that and show you all that overlap. This is exactly the kind of place you'll see a failed second entry short that turns into a trap, and you can see. But there wasn't enough room here to be going long on this little, and this is not bouncing out of there real well either. So really not even a good trap because of all the overlap. What it did, it broke out the top, failed, then broke out the bottom, and then went higher. And what happened is that most traders didn't feel like this was a good setup. So, but when it got way down here, they got a chance to get long low and then ride it to the top. And so easy trade. In fact, I think I actually took that trade, maybe, I can't remember, but I didn't mark it because it was counter trend, but I believe I took that long. I took one somewhere in here, and I believe that was it. There was also some support across here, and that was another reason. You can see that support coming back across there. That was another, and I knew there was enough room to get out, so I believe that's the trade I took to the long side. And I didn't mark it. Maybe I should have put it in green, but you know, I just don't think after a move like this, unless you really know what you're doing, that it's worth taking counter trend trades. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. It's about 25 minutes worth. Back out again so you can see the big picture, but easy to see a nice channel up and now a nice channel down. And we hadn't quite gotten back to that line, but it could be a little lower like so. Like that after all. And if we don't come back, but we hadn't got a break here yet, so it wouldn't surprise me if we don't break lower and then come back. But sometimes if the trend's strong enough, you may not come back and retest it. So I wasn't really sure how to play this one right here. I believe it was like that right there, and there's your break, and then 2 legs up. But this one was a little tricky, or maybe it was more like that. Sometimes they're just not as easy to see, and sometimes they're real easy to see. And that's probably it right there. That looks much better. Maybe you even call it here, but you still got the break. So I don't know. I originally started with that, and that could be it still. It still works. You see that the break and then 2 legs up. But generally on these type, you don't get 2 legs quite as often. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But we weren't back to this other side, and that was the bottom line. And you can see once we hit it, look at that huge sell-off. And if you didn't catch this one, you missed a great move. And that was the trade of the day right there. This was not a bad trade, but this was the trade of the day. And that one made me a lot of money. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.